Here's my trusty Sapac Foamy Hawk. Had a few crashes, quite a few repairs, still going strong. Now I've been flying it during the winter time with a 4S 2650 LiPo, 2W20 fan in a 70mm unit, 80 amp ESC. Things have been going fine, but now the summer's here, I've all of a sudden hit a snag. The ESC is experiencing thermal cutout all the time. Now because it's buried about here, I think, and about right there, inside the cavity that was made for the wires to run back to the servos and the motor, it's really hot. Because the ESC is taking up so much space, I don't think it's allowing the airflow to happen, and because of that it's overheating. Now what I've done, I'm going to go in here and let the light adjust, and hopefully I'm pointing it in the right direction. Right at the back, right at the top, just above the fan unit, you can see I've cut out a rectangular hole. That's the ESC sticking partially out there. I took off the heat shrink to expose the heatsink properly, and then pushed it down into that little hole that I've cut out of the foam. So it's even less keeping the thing together now. Alright, so hopefully that'll take care of that. Now it's got much better airflow. Now the other problem is that this big box here is really a tomb for the battery. There's no airflow. It's got a cooling vent underneath here, and that is proving to not really be effective because there's nowhere else for the air to come in and go out. It's basically just a hole. Here's the next plan. My LiPos are all starting to puff because of the heat. Now it was fine when I was flying in 10-11 degrees Celsius. Now that I'm flying at 30 degrees Celsius on a 9 o'clock in the morning, that's another 20 degrees on top of the battery. So instead of my batteries coming out at 30-35 degrees like they were in winter, they're now coming out 50-55 degrees. They are getting cooked in there. There's just no airflow. So I've got a double whammy on my hands. Now what I've done is I ripped out my little battery tray. It's a 1/8 ply. A little bit of scabby foam there to keep the front end up, and I had that all aerodyned into the cockpit area. Right, so I got rid of that. I decided that maybe what I need to do is put some cooling fans in there, much like computer hard drives do. Went on eBay, had a bit of a look around, found this little package with two small 40mm, I'm guessing, cooling fans bolted onto a bracket, and you bolt that onto your internal hard drive to cool it down, and it draws heat away from your hard drive. And I thought, well, that's what I need to do with my LiPo. So I got these for $1 off eBay, and here's my battery. This is a 2650 Flightmax 40C. I usually lie it flat like this and jam it into the cockpit. The plan now is, what I've done here is, I have to get a good camera angle, I've epoxied two of those fans that I've taken out of that mounting bracket together, as you can see them join there. Cut a little section away here to allow them to sit flat and be right above there's a cooling tray or a cooling vent or whatever you want to call it down there, a little plastic slitted vent area for the foamy version. I've mounted that up above that. Now the plan is, instead of my battery mounting like this, I'm going to put a couple of slits across there to keep it safe, and then mount the battery unit like so. And the plan is to draw the heat the LiPo is generating away from the unit. Lying it flat means, well, only one LiPo is really going to benefit the most from that, so I don't really want that to happen, because otherwise I'll just have one cell puffing. So the big plan is I'm going to open up this LiPo just a tad, give it some space in between the two of them, because this is actually two cells put together. They didn't have any 4S's at the time, so I got two 2S's and made my own 4S setup, which is good because now I can separate that and have a nice air gap in between them. So by the time I open that up, you can see that there will be plenty of air on either side and in between them for cooling. Now these fans run on 12 volts from your 12 volt power rail in your computer, so I'm just going to jack it up 2 volts to 14 volts. Worst thing that can happen, they'll spin a bit faster, and the fact that I'm only running them for 2 or 3 minutes, well, I'll take that back, 4 or 5 minutes, they should be able to cope quite well. Now they're just sitting there at the moment, but I'll give you a test run. I've got a little 360 Rhino sitting here, 3S, and I'm just jacked into the power unit. As you see, I haven't even made a little plug for it yet. I'm just at the installation stage, test fitting it, but I'll spin it up. You can have a listen to how quiet it is, and of course you won't be able to see how effective it is because I mean they're spinning quietly and they're not drawing a great amount of airflow, but I'm hoping with 2 of them there, the batteries separated, it will provide enough cooling to stop my batteries getting so hot. I did have a couple of Turnigies that were coping really well in the winter time, but the moment summer came, bang, they puffed up and they got really hot. So I'm really disappointed with that. So before I start losing my 40C, I've got to start coming up with plan B to somehow keep the battery cool, especially with these hot summer days we're having. But I'll just crank this up and you can have a look. Probably got a bit wobbly there, I just stick it in my mouth to hold the camera. So there they are there, operating. Nice and cool. Whoops, bit of camera wobble. And that's the only area the air can come out because that tiny hole is useless. All the wires are blocking that. There's nothing down the back there. And in the front here, yeah, it's just a tune. There's just no airflow. There's no in and out. So hopefully this will take care of that problem, drawing the heat away and spitting it out of the bottom of the jet. Very quiet, they're very light. I'd give them 7 or 8 grams each. They're very, very light. I don't think I'm even going to notice this at all once I'm done. Alright, and the next step of course is to test it all out and see whether it works or not. Can't be any worse, hopefully it can just be a bit better. Alright.